In the last video, we examined the resources and the needs that students bring to our writing-intensive college courses. While students are already linguistically adept at adapting their discourse to changing social situations and audiences, students remain newcomers to the cultures of our university-level academic fields. Whether we teach biology, religion, or business management, our fields are distinct and recognizable by their shared topics of interest, ways of knowing, and styles of communicating. As professors, it's up to us to explain the rules of these cultures to students, just as we might explain the unwritten rules of family discourse to a new significant other who is coming to Thanksgiving dinner for the very first time.
Our writing assignments are an opportunity for such explanations. Not only do our assignments need to motivate students with an appropriate level of challenge and autonomy, but they also need to provide enough instruction and support to make success achievable. While students must work to claim their own education, as faculty, we are the gatekeepers to progress towards degree. We have the power to assign an A or an F, to unlock the doors into our discourse communities, or to keep them closed. Whether students work to enter the community or not is up to them. We can offer opportunity on our writing assignments by concisely and explicitly explaining the rules of discourse to the best of our ability. Scholars who study written discourse usually ask a specific set of questions to uncover these rules. They often use a diagram called the communication triangle as a heuristic tool, which we will soon explain. We hope that you will teach your students to ask these questions whenever they are faced with a writing task. We also hope that you ask and answer these questions for yourself and your students whenever you create a writing assignment.
First, what is the type of text or genre of the writing task? Are you asking students to write a poem, a lab report, or scientific manuscript reporting on the results and implications of an experiment? Or are you asking them to write a meta-analysis or review of existing literature on a topic, such as comparing, contrasting, or adjudicating many conflicting views? Maybe they're writing a close reading of a single text, or a letter or proposal recommending a course of action. Or are you asking students to write a first-person narrative? Each of these genres are unique. Genres have a typical form and organizational structure, and we need to explain them to students, but we hope that you will explain the required form of a text with reference to its function and its purpose.
The second question then, after what's my genre, is what's the purpose of this writing task? These questions are clearly so interrelated that they emerge in concert, but we have to start somewhere. Writing is an activity that takes place within a community of practice. Some scholars call writing an activity within an activity system. Within the activity system, what is the purpose of writing this text? What work is it intended to accomplish? Is the purpose tied to self-expression, to testimony? Is it to inform the reader of facts that they might not know? Is the purpose to persuade the reader to change his or her mind from one belief to another? Is it to entertain, to make the reader laugh, wonder, empathize, or become conscious of words themselves as an artistic medium? Fields as a whole have typical purposes or unique nuanced combinations of these purposes for each type of text that circulates within it. When designing assignments for your students, try to explain what the purpose of the text is. Try to explain what activity it accomplishes within your activity system or community of practice.
Third, students need to know what the immediate context is within which they are writing. For most of your students, time might be the most pressing context. They want to know when the text is due. Scholars then elaborate on the typical writing purposes for texts using what is called the rhetorical or communication triangle. This triangle is a visual representation of written communication. A writer communicates to an audience or a reader about a topic. This communicative act constructs a text within a specific context. Having this visual representation allows us to ask all the important questions about our writing task.
After purpose and context, as writers, we need to clarify what our role and tone should be to accomplish our purpose. Walt Whitman's purpose in writing Leaves of Grass was to express himself and create a work of art using the material of words. His tone is intimate. It is written in the first person. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume, you shall assume, for every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. By contrast, a recent article in the Journal of the American Medical Association was written for the purpose of informing physicians about the outcomes of a recent scientific trial and persuading other scientists to conduct additional research. The writers were multiple co-authors whose tone is clinical. Notice the way they use the passive voice in order to keep the focus on the intervention itself as the subject of the sentence. Scalp cooling using a scalp cooling device was done 30 minutes prior to and during and 90 minutes after each chemotherapy infusion. For participants receiving scalp cooling, a comfort scale was administered after each treatment.
Working our way around the triangle, we come next to audience. It might not be obvious that the audience, the reader, also plays a role in the act of communication. Novices in the field need to understand that what role the typical reader will expect to play when they pick up a text. Will the reader expect to be informed, persuaded, or entertained? Will the text build on information that the reader already knows or learns for the first time through reading? Will the reader expect the text to be difficult to comprehend, requiring diligent attention and maybe some note-taking or rereading? Or will the reader expect the text to be easy to comprehend, giving up its meaning readily for time-constrained consumers? Novices also need to know what their intended audience already knows, believes, and or feels, and what this audience might need to know, believe, or feel after reading the text.
As is obvious in those few lines about a treatment for women undergoing chemotherapy published in JAMA, each field has common topics of interest to readers in the discourse community. The final angle of the communication triangle is the topic. Common topics have produced our disciplinary fields over centuries of discourse with commonly used vocabulary words. These define the angle of the world under investigation. While medical professionals commonly use vocabulary words like randomized clinical trial, pathology, indications, adherence to therapy, and prognosis, poets and literary critics discuss meter, motifs, line breaks, and objective correlatives. Data analytic tools like Wordle can help your students to identify the commonly used vocabulary terms in the readings that you assign and check their comprehension. These common topics are also windows into the values of your field, beliefs about what is knowable and what is most important to know, and how we go about, that is, our methods of discovering or producing more knowledge.
Inside the triangle, the text itself makes these roles and relationships manifest. Texts in each field have typical lengths and organizational structures. We use the word genre to mean all these typical aspects of a text within a field: the typical purposes for writing, the typical role and the tone of the writer, typical expectations of the reader, and typical topics.
So to summarize, thinking through the points of the communication triangle can give us a heuristic, a helpful set of questions to routinely answer when we design a writing assignment, and to teach our students to routinely answer when they begin a writing task. We will review it one more time, hoping that you can recreate this inquiry tool in your writing intensive course. When beginning a writing task, a wise first question is, what is the genre of my assignment? Can I learn from the form and organization of other models of this type of text? What is the purpose of writing this type of text? What is the purpose of the activity within the activity system? What is the immediate context within which I am writing? What prompted my writing? What time is it due? As the writer, what is my role with relationship to my audience? What tone should I have in this role? How do I make myself sound credible? Next, who is my audience? What does my intended reader already know, believe, or feel? What do I want this reader to know, believe, or feel? And finally, what is my specific topic? What methods of investigating this topic and what descriptive vocabulary will help me to achieve my purpose?
Writers can ask these questions in any order that makes sense to their task. As a professor, you can explicate them in a logical way on your writing assignments, or ask your students to answer these questions if the rhetorical situation is one that they must creatively design. If you can explain to students what your expectations and assumptions are as one powerful intended audience, this will help your students to succeed, unlocking the rules of the culture so that they can enter into the discursive community of practice alongside you and be successful in your future courses and career.
In the next video, we will talk about the writing process, pulling back the curtain on the habits of successful and prolific writers who aren't stymied by procrastination and anxiety. We look forward to seeing you there.